It's growing moss. A little bit of electrical wiring holding it together. That's gonna be interesting. That exhaust looks kind of blown open. There's a hole in the exhaust there. What the heck were you riding? Oh my goodness. If a mouse jumps out of here and bites my finger. Ah, don't point the heat gun at your fingers.
Little steps at a time.
That's like syrup in there. All right, so there's a little sludge built up in there. Water's just running out of the seat cover here. Look at that. This is gonna be fun. There we go. All right, so we're gonna continue at this this blaster. I did get a chance to look at the serial number, 10th digit. 10th digit is a 1, so it's a 2001. So it's the same year as the blaster that I have and I ride. We still have no spark. So today we're gonna track down no spark. I do have a wiring diagram, so we're gonna look through that. It does already have oil inject delete, so we don't need that. But that's where we're gonna start today. See if we can get back to spark, and then we'll keep on troubleshooting. First things first, we know we have a wire coming off here, and I've got a wiring diagram. This white broke yesterday while I was just kind of chasing wires, looking. It came off of... might have to go back to my pictures and my photos for this one, but I'm going to dig into a diagram, chase back. I know this guy needs to be grounded. This is the regulator, and it's snapped off, so we're going to reverse this guy, and we're going to trace some of this back, and ultimately the TORS system is installed, and we're going to take the TORS out because that can also kill spark. To take that out, we're just going to unplug it from the brain here. We'll go up under the throttle position switch here, and we'll take out the position sensor switch. Finally, we'll come around back here. There's a plug coming off the carb, and we'll take that off. That should bypass the TORS system. Don't point the heat gun at your fingers. So here is the throttle position sensor. We're going to take this out. This senses where the throttle position is. And if it doesn't, this sensor and the brain down here, the brain doesn't agree with this position sensor saying where the throttle is as compared to where the throttle body is in here, it kills spark. Now what some guys do is they just cut the wire, and that way you don't have a hole here. You can just fill this hole where the wire goes with some shoe goo. Not really worried about it, but I'm not trying to cut anything up right now. I'm trying to troubleshoot. So I'm just going to remove the sensor. I'm just going to pull it up and out of the housing. Just like that. And that's what has a tendency to fail. This regulator needs to be grounded, but the tab snapped off, so I'm going to use this side to screw it in. But I got to get this guy out, and so far, even with my hand impact, it's not working well. You see, I just kind of bent it back. So I might have to get a little fancy with it, but it has been soaking in free all, easy out all night. So let's try it again here. All right, trying, but the hand easy out. Or not the hand easy out, but the hand impact isn't doing it. So we're going to try an easy out on it. Overnight easy out, nothing. All right, we're gonna get a replacement bolt for that guy. All right, this is a handy thing too for figuring out your sizes. What was that just came out? There it is, M6 1 pitch. Knowing that makes it a little easier for me to go in and find a bolt in my spare kit. All right, perfect. I actually have a new M6 1 pitch and a locking washer. We're in business. All right, so coming off of all of this around here, we have headlight ground, sloppy, but you know, okay. Headlight ground. Ooh, that one, the sloppy one, is not the headlight ground. That's a frame ground. Let's clean this up a little bit. Okay. All right, let's see if that's enough to give us some spark. Okay, here we go. Spark test. We're grounded. See if I can do this with my foot while holding the camera. Ooh. So, recognizing we have spark, next, we're going to put the tank on, we're going to put fuel in, we'll put the air filter back on, we're going to put the rear end in the air, because the reason my buddy brought this over is something has gone on with first and second gear, and I don't know what to expect. I don't want to run away. So let's set that up. Let's see if it'll fire and idle. Before I put this tank on though, this hose is probably ready to snap. So I'm going to swap out this hose. I've got a length replacement hose, and I have a bunch of, look at that, I got a stone filter, so we're going to put a filter on this while we're at it.
Little steps at a time.
Yep, just broke the line as I was taking it off there. That was going to leave somebody stranded on a trail when that went. Never mind, hot gas on a motor is not generally a good thing. Oh yeah, it's all cracked up. Water, fuel's going to run everywhere. Let's get some different hose clamps too. All right, there we go. That's going to be an 8mm clamp there when we're ready. Typically these filters will have a direction of flow arrow in typical Chinese fashion. This one does not, but the flow is this way. So if I go in here, this is going to come off the tank here, and this other end to the carb. So I'm going to warm up this piece of pipe a little bit, make it easier to press on, but being careful not to put a lot of heat to my filter because it'll just melt this. So we don't need a whole lot. It'll just make this easier to slip over and get a nice tight clamp connection. See if that's enough to get this. Yep, just softens it right up. There we go. Wipe this petcock off so I can actually watch for any leaks that might happen. Good enough. All right, let's get some fuel line onto the carb. Still a pretty good chance we're gonna have to rebuild this carb one step at a time. So I left the longer pigtail on this, as you saw, towards the carb, so that I have the extra to trim off once I get everything in place when I'm all done. But it's nice with new clean fuel lines because I can actually see the fuel flowing. With a filter in there, we can see what's coming through. This tank was taped off, so it shouldn't be too bad, but new fuel line. This is 40 to 1, 90 F3. All right, we have fuel flowing. Looks to me like we've got a little bit of a leak around the petcock here. But I'll tell you, I have no idea the condition of this carb. And I can't drain it because the bolt in the bottom here is all smoked out. A lot of folks will do that. They keep tightening this bolt in, thinking it'll keep the overflow tube from leaking. But it's all about the float in the bowls here. If the floats get stuck, there's a brass tube that if the fuel gets above a certain level, it's just going to flow out. Ultimately, the floats in here float up and push a needle up that stops the fuel flow. But people are always like, crank it down. But because it's cranked down, I can't drain out whatever's in here. I don't know what's in here. So we're going to turn this off. And I do think there's a little leak in this petcock. We're going to pull the carb. We're going to open up the carb. We're going to clean it. get to that point next. All right, this carb is messy. The threads are pretty smoked on this carb too, for the head there, but we're going to put it through the ultrasonics. We'll pull a few pieces off here. Oh, look at that. That doesn't look like fuel just poured out that fuel line. That definitely has a look of rust water, which I noticed when the quad got dropped off yesterday, that the head, you know, the top of the carb for the throttle body was sitting on there. It wasn't all the way on. So for however many years this had been sitting, it's not unreasonable to think there's water in there. I did put the cap back on before I pressure washed and was careful around the carb. So I don't think that that would be anything that I did there. But I do see fresh fuel mixing in too. So with any luck, this is just a cleanup job. Let's see if this bowl wants to play nice. Okay. Oh yeah, that's like syrup in there. Yep. So, and look at around the main jet here, all of that. This thing's probably plugged up like nobody's business. We're gonna put this whole thing through the ultrasonic to clean it up. All right, I pulled the back plastics off because I got to get that all really kind of washed up. All the dirt and mud that's in there from the mouse nest is just disgusting. And I've cleaned the air filter so before everything goes back in. And while the carb is on the ultrasonic getting cleaned out, I wanted to get this off so I could get a better look at some of what's going on here. And actually I'm noticing, looks like a bend in the frame. Maybe. So I'm going to take a look at this exhaust momentarily. It was just kind of loose rattle in here. It's welded to the, you know, to the header pipe here, but it's got a hole in it, so I might just, oh boy, don't know, but fill that hole with something. But the carb, which has been in the ultrasonic, is done now, so I've pulled that out. And it did a reasonable job. There's still some goo down there I'm going to clean out with a brush, but everything else is cleaned up. The threads here are pretty beat up, so I'm going to have to be real careful getting this back on. That is probably all those threads are probably what all this kind of metal shaving is that came out of the carb right there. So I'm going to wipe that down inside, put the carb back together, get that back on the bike. All right, just pressure wash the back plastics. These things were really just caked. This side not so bad, really, but this side had all of the mouse nest, everything in there. So the boot's all been cleaned out, so we're going to dry that out. All that sludge and slime from years of mouse urine cleaned out. A little bit still in there, but I'm okay with that. So this is going to dry, and then we're going to get back in. I've got the carb back on. There was no clamp on the boot going into the head here through the reeds. We've got that on. So slowly getting some steps closer. Before I put this on though, I'm going to take this apart, take a look. If I don't see anything odd, tighten it back up so we have a exhaust minus a little hole up here. Alright, so there's a little sludge built up in there, but I can see all the way through. I mean, that's not going to be great, but that will work. So we'll clean that sludge out, dry this out a little bit. I can see, you know, there's carbon burning around the edge here, so it certainly was leaking around this plate. We still have to deal with that, but we're getting closer to trying again to see if we can get it to start today. All right guys, we're prepped to try again here. Just got the back plastics held on with the air filter. Fuel tank is back on. I did get a bolt this time to hold the exhaust on rather than that piece of electrical wire. That's all tightened up as best it can be for right now. I'm noticing something immediately here though. Having rebuilt the carb, fuel is pouring out the overflow. Little unfortunate there. Yep. So that implies that the float needle is not shutting off the flow. So we'll turn off the fuel and let it sit. I might still try and crank it over with the fuel turned off. There's plenty of fuel in the bowl. See if it starts, runs, and stops. Just to see if I can get over that hump. And we'll go from there. Interestingly, you know, this is the position for the carb. You can't quite see it from here, but it's leaning towards me a little bit. And we know that because there's a notch in the top of this boot. So there's a notch on the carb, and they kind of sit flush in together, so you get that right. But it does mean this carb is at a little bit of an angle on this motor. But we're gonna give it some kicks and see if she fires. Wow. Wow. Now let's kill switch works, so we have some control. So let's kick it again and see how she'll do. Well, I couldn't call that an idle. The other thing is, while it was revved up there, I threw off the choke and I started coming down on the idle adjust, probably like 3 and 4 screw turns, and it still wasn't coming down. Wow. So super encouraging, starting and running, but we don't have an idle. Choke on, choke off. This here is the idle adjust on a Tor's system. That's just spinning as if it's not doing anything. I'm gonna take the tank back off, and we're gonna take the Tor's brick off and take a look in there, because we don't have any control over idle right now. All right, here's the inside of the brick. Clearly over the years, rainwater got down in. This is what I was spinning here, and we're going to take this apart. There's a spring that's come loose in there. And the other side of the brick is the rest of the throttle cable. So I've got to lift out this aperture and see if this is replaceable. If not, we're going to buy a Tor's Delete kit where this whole brick goes away. You get a new cable here. This all gets rid of, you get just a cap on top, and you drill the side here so you actually have an idle screw on the side of your carb. But let me get into this and see if anything can be done here, because we want some idle adjust. Well, and here's my synopsis. As I take it out, you see that's broken off. Broken off from there. So This was one piece of plastic that sat, yeah, plastic, huh? Plastic on a performance ATV for the throttle. Sat kind of like that, and then this would thread up and down to adjust, you know, adjust your idle. So we're gonna get a delete kit. We're gonna put that in. We need a clutch cable and a clutch bar, but really so far we only have those pieces, and if we're running and idling at that point, we're closing the gap. So that's where we're going to stop today. Got to order a couple of parts here, but we got the goal for today. We solved the no spark issue, and we were able to work it through. So it's starting, it's running off choke. We have a clean air box, air lines, cleaned carb, starts and runs, but I can't control idle. And when I got into it, the Tor's brick internally is broken, so we have no control there. So couple of little pieces to go the next step. We have a clutch cable coming in. We'll reuse this perch. That should be fine. Front brake, this was snapped off here, pulled off the broken parts. We need a new perch. Ultimately, this feels bound up. So I've got some Freall under here. Gonna try and get this opened up so I can see, you know, what's going on. I have not opened the brakes on the front end here. So let's see, a perch, clutch cable, delete kit. Hopefully at that point we are running and idling. And if we have that clutch cable in, we're gonna try and find out what's going on that bottom end when we shift it. Don't know yet, but that's what we started going after. Right now we're undoing all the work from it sitting in the field for all these years. The exhaust is on tight again. You saw it when it started up. It just blows chunks out the side here. We're gonna have to do something there. That's it. I'm gonna relax for a little bit, have a beer. I got a lot of mess to clean up here. Fortunately, a nice afternoon, but this thing's gonna run. This thing's gonna run. So encouraging day. Yeah.